Hi everyone. If you are new to Stable Diffusion and you've just started playing with creating your own images and things, and you might be wondering how are people getting some of these fantastic results, and you feel like you're not kind of getting there as quickly or not getting there at all, I'm hoping to help people understand what are the different places they can go, how some of these images are created, how to understand some of this information so that you can start building your awareness and your skill set around how to use this tool. Let's get started with this. And I like to run in this sort of layout because I like to keep an eye on the command line just to see what's going on over here while I'm actually using Automatic 1111. So that's fired up. Okay, this is what Automatic 1111 looks like by default. It's going to have all of these settings, and we should talk very quickly about what areas you're going to start using to get an image produced. So this is the primary prompt text field. You'll be entering what you want to see here, and I'm just going to start with cute cat in a field. This negative prompt is very important. Shouldn't ignore this. If you're not getting the result you want here, the tendency, I think, is to keep adding and adding and adding sort of words here. That may not cut it to still get what you're looking for. What you might want to do is start telling it what you don't want to see here. What I don't want to see is low quality. I don't want to see anything that is deformed. I don't want anything dark. Okay, so those are the two kind of main fields, right? This is what you do want to see. This is what you do not want to see. Sampling method. There's a lot to the different sampling methods. Some of these sampling methods work better with certain models and better, maybe worse with others. I would say experiment here too and see if there's one that's getting you a result closer to what you want. And I mentioned the word model. I guess we should jump back up to the top here. This is the most, I think, important piece that's good to know, right? The Automatic 1111 install, depending on how you've installed it, usually goes out and grabs this 1.5 model of information. What's a model? What's a checkpoint? They also use the term checkpoint. It is a data set of images that the model understands. So if you say airplane, the model has been trained on images of an airplane. It tries to create the shape of an airplane based on the image. By way of, it's going to take your text fields, it's going to try to reduce these things that you said you don't want. It's going to use this sampling method to take all this noise. It just looks like a bunch of pixels, or like static on a television if you are as old as I am, and it's going to try to start reducing the amount of noise until it creates patterns that match what you've asked it to match, while not reproducing the things that you asked it not to produce. And so that's why these sampling methods just have different ways of iterating on, denoising the image until you get the pattern and the image you want. And when we talk about iterating, that's what these sampling steps are. How many times you wanted to keep trying and trying and trying to refine the image. And there's kind of a diminished point of diminishing returns here. I don't think I've ever seen anyone use. I think this goes to 150. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anyone use 150. I see sometimes people go 50, 60. Sometimes some models are okay at like 70. I don't think I've seen anybody go more than 70. I think 30 will probably be fine. That comes default with 20 with Euler A here. These I would just recommend leaving alone, because with Stable Diffusion 1.5, most of the models are trained with 512 by 512. And yes, I understand that's a pretty small image. We have options to what's called upscale and raise the resolution of that after the fact. So I wouldn't try to be creating your images out of the gate here unless the model has been trained on larger images. And if you know that, of course, then if you have a model that's trained on 1024 by 1024 images, then go for it. And you'll also need a little more horsepower to produce lots of images like that. This classifier free guidance is something you'll want to experiment with. That's how much you want Stable Diffusion to adhere to the prompts. If you want it to very closely follow your prompt text, then you might want to raise this. This goes way high. I've never seen anyone use a CFG of 30. The default is 7. I like to actually set it around 6, but we're going to, just for the purposes of this, I'm going to leave everything exactly where it is and try our first image. Seed -1 means random. We'll talk a little bit about seed in a second. So that's really all you need to get started with your very first image. It comes with a model. You tell it what you want, tell it what you don't want. You can pretty much leave everything else alone and hit generate, and you should get your very first image. There it is. Cute cat in a field. Not bad. Not exactly what I have in mind, but it's a starting point. Now let's say, to speed things up, you don't want to just keep clicking generate one at a time, because that would take a long time. You have a couple of options here. You have the batch count and the batch size. I think people have a tendency to use batch count because it doesn't affect performance as much. You can also increase batch size. The difference here, and please leave me some comments if I'm wrong on this, but how I understand these two things is, this is how many groupings to generate, and this is how many images to create within the grouping. So one has a higher impact on performance than the other. But let's experiment and try it. I'm going to try to speed things up. Let's go with, well, we're just prototyping in this moment, so we're going to go with 4, I think. And we'll see how that goes. And almost as if you're familiar with painting on a canvas, it's all about refining as you go. Nobody goes straight into well, maybe some artists do, but for the most part, you're layering and slowly refining. You're going kind of from broad information, background, muted colors, maybe sky and tones, and then you start layering on the detail and on the detail until you get to the image that sort of matches what's in your mind. This is similar, right? Right now, I'm not super concerned with is this exactly what I think the finished product should be. Right now, I'm trying to get my settings dialed in a little bit so that I can start to refine. Okay, if you're looking to come out of the gate, throw a couple of things in these text fields and hit generate and get some spectacular work of art, it's not likely to happen. That would be some great luck with how things are laid out, but and you can work in here to refine that. So I actually think that's looking pretty good. Here's one. Here's a good negative prompt. There's some kind of watermark or a text in here, and so that's a very popular. We don't want any text or watermark in our data. Now, you can experiment with some of these other things, whereas we're asking for something that's, I think, pretty generic. I guess a cat in a field. I think this model can kind of handle something like that. You can try different sampling methods to see if they are getting closer to what you envision. And you'll see there's a kind of a slight style difference here. So by all means, kind of experiment with these different settings and see if something seems to be on the right track or not. And for me, I think Euler A was closer to what I was looking for. You can also start to make slight changes, and it's kind of a pain in the neck, but you don't want to, until you're really comfortable with the settings, you don't want to change a ton of things at once, because then you won't know what did or didn't make the difference for you. So I just told it, get a little more creative. 6. These are all fine, but they're not quite what I had in mind. So now what? This is where you'll start to need to make some changes. I'm looking to make something a lot more fantastic, a lot more colorful, a lot more whimsical. And to get from here to there with just text prompts is going to be time consuming. So to speed things up, we have some options at our disposal, and I already have them at the ready here, so we can look at them. There's a couple of things you're likely to want to change to dramatically increase the speed of your results here. First would be your model, right? So this is trained on just a lot of a very broad data set. It's intentionally kind of generic, this model. If you're looking to do something a little more specific, you'll probably want to change your model. I like this RPG model for a lot of the things that I'm working on. Civet AI is a place like Hugging Face that is just a place where people share images that they've created, different models that they've created, different other different sort of helper utilities and things. So it's a great site. Be careful, because a lot of the stuff is kind of a little more risque maybe than some people's tolerance. But what you'd want to do is come here, look around. If you find something that matches a style you like, you'll grab it, you'll download this, and this sits in your Automatic1111 Stable Diffusion Web UI Models Stable Diffusion folder. And I've already downloaded it and put it here. You can see it's 2 gig, so just to save us some time, I already downloaded it and put it there. Likewise, I also grabbed this Midjourney Fairy Tale LoRA. Now people are like, oh my god, I'm barely getting my head around models. What's a LoRA, and how the heck do I use this thing? Okay, a LoRA is a low rank adaptation, which is we could call it maybe a fine tuning or a refinement. Think about it like a mini model that you can stack on top of the base model. So if our RPG is going to be our main base model, it's been trained on a very large data set. The file is very large, and so there's a lot of information in this model. But if you want something even more specialized, these LoRAs is where you can get some really nice, very specific image training. Or no matter, in other generative AI, they have similar concepts, right? They have these low rank adaptations. So you can add these, and the cool thing is, like I was saying, they stack. So you can use several different LoRAs in a model, which we're going to do now. So here's a nice kind of really whimsical, colorful LoRa that I want. These are much smaller. You can see this one's only 72 meg. And when you download these go into your big surprise Automatic1111 Stable Diffusion Web UI Models LoRa. And then they go in there. And so when you put those in there, to see them, oh, and I also grabbed this Super Cute Cat V10. This is also a LoRa. How can I tell? Because it says right here it's a LoRa, and it's only 144 meg. So this is also in my LoRa folder in Automatic1111. I downloaded these already. There's another helpful tip here. Let's say you're browsing around and you're like, wow, this is really fantastic. How do I reproduce this? A lot of the model creators or image creators are nice enough to add this little information button here. If you click this, you're going to get the information to recreate this yourself. Right? Here's the prompt. It was a text to image prompt. It used this sampler. It used this model. And here's some of the other information. You can even grab this seed and try to recreate this. And this is a good way to have a starting point, right? If you really like this scene, you can start with some of this information, bring these settings, copy these settings. You can just kind of grab them here. You can just hit this copy generation data and bring those into your own Stable Diffusion and use those as a starting point, right? And now you're already in a better spot. One other super helpful thing that can get you closer to what you're looking for more quickly is this awesome Stable Diffusion 1.5 cheat sheet. This is in GitHub. This is a listing of artists with a thumbnail of the art style. And this is also great for inspiring thought or style ideas. If you're like, aha, this is, this kind of really abstract, colorful thing is what I'm looking for, or this more, kind of oil painting style look, or this kind of sketch, black and white sketch, and you can look through here and say, oh, this is more what I had pictured in my mind, something that matches more like this. And as you scroll over these, you'll see a few different styles. So one thing I would caution, sometimes an artist may have a little more variety to their style. For example, this one is colorful, but you can see there's a black and white image. There's a black and white image here too. So you may want to just experiment with these too. A lot of this is about experimentation. Now I know down the bottom there's an art style that I'm going to want to use. So I'm going to scroll down here, and you can see a lot of these are either like comic style, or this is like kind of like a sculptural style. And so this will be really helpful. Some of them are more portrait oriented, some of them are more landscape oriented. And I don't want to scroll too fast to make you dizzy here, but the one I'm looking for is way down the bottom. So I'm just going to keep going. And there are a lot. And all of these artist styles I'm going to use should, be understood by Stable Diffusion 1.5. So I'm going to keep moving on till I get to the style I know that I'm looking for our image. And it is here, this Hanayata. So I click this. I know I'm looking for this really high detailed, really colorful image type. And the cool thing about this cheat sheet is you can just click right here and it'll copy the artist name, style of artist name. And you can even click on this and it will sort of Google the artist for you, and you can get a little more info. So, and it says right here, psychedelic art, surrealism, oil painting. So Really cool, and you can even even a search here if you're looking for. I think it'll pick up on some of these keywords. So now that I've copied that, I'm just going to add that. Now I want to grab. Now we grabbed this RPG model, and we also grabbed these two LoRAs. So how do we put those in? Well, once you've downloaded these and put them in the right places, hit this little recycle or refresh. It'll refresh this list, and you can just pick it. For your LoRa's, click this extra networks button and click on LoRa. And I have a bunch here. I have a add-on to help create the thumbnails here, so you can distinguish what's what. So these are the two new ones that we just downloaded. This fairy tale and super cute cat. And that's why I find it helpful to have this thumbnail plugin, because we downloaded super cute cat, but what the LoRa is called is RPG cat by having this thumbnail plugin. I think it's great. It's this Civet AI helper. And if I just ask it to scan, it'll go through and scan. We see our two LoRa's that we just put in. We'll click fairy tale because we want it, and we'll click RPG cat because we want that one. And now we'll click this off of this again, and we'll be back. Now what do we do? Let's regroup here for a minute. I just made a lot of changes, and I told you not to make a lot of changes at once. But what we did was we changed the model, which is now RPG. It's no longer the default 1.5. And I did that because I wanted a certain art style as my base. I also added this style of Hanayata prompt, which I got from this Stable Diffusion cheat sheet here by clicking this, and I copied it. Okay, and I pasted it here. I also downloaded these two LoRa's, which are small, very specific training sets, and I added them to the folder, and I clicked on them and got them in here. Now, something to keep in mind when using LoRa's, especially, and especially if you're going to stack them like this or have multiple. They come in with a default value or weight of 1, which is very strong. I would say we should probably pull these to 0.3 to start our experimenting. 0.3. Okay. Anything else we want to change? Yes. I want this to be a lot more whimsical. So a lot of times you'll see people start with things like ultra high resolution, cute cat. I'm going to go cute rainbow. No, let's just go cute cat for now. Cat with wings flying over a field. And I'm going to make a couple changes, but we're going to start here. Now let's generate and see what we get. I might bump this to 30. Now that's not bad. Why have I picked cute cat with wings flying over a field? Well, because it's something that the models aren't likely to have a lot of knowledge about, right? There probably aren't tons of pictures of a cat with wings flying over a field. So this is going to force the model to really try to figure out what I'm asking it for, right? And actually, this is pretty good. It's pretty close, actually. But let's take a look and see if there are. Let's see if Euler, oops, does a better job. Oh, these are certainly much better. It's actually flying right over the field. And it's cute. I like this one quite a bit. So let's say you find one that you like. This is a lot like what I was thinking about. Right? He's airborne. He's cute. Now, if you noticed, when I was using the DPM to MSDE, all of my cats were sitting, and it wasn't really grabbing my flying over a field prompt. Now you could sit there and try to hammer it with more words, right? You can add parentheses, flying over a field, parentheses, do as I say kind of thing, right? This is some way to kind of strengthen the wording. And you can try to keep doing that, or you can just try some of these other samplers to see if they kind of pick up on what you're asking it for already, and it'll just save you some time. Once you have an image you like, you can make some tweaks. If there's a problem, let's say this ear had something weird, or there was a blemish or something you wanted to get out of here, you can bring this into inpainting. I mean, that could be a whole nother tutorial. But this is when you would want to start refining your image, and you can send it right to inpainting like that. By doing this, by using these buttons to send it to, the nice thing about that is it will keep your information. It'll keep your sampling steps, or you should just verify that it has, but it should maintain all this information, bring it over. It brought the seed over, it brought my positive prompt, my negative prompt. It didn't bring my CFG scale, but that's okay. We're gonna work with that. And if you want to inpaint, what's an inpaint? Inpaint is a way to fix blemishes. I probably should not get into this right now because it's a little more than a basic tutorial, but suffice it to say, if I want to fix this eye, you can just paint over it. You can say inpaint the masked, inpaint only the masked. You want to make just very small changes. For now, I'm going to bring this down to, I don't know, 2, I think. I just want to very ever so slightly fix this eye. And let's see what it comes up with. That's not bad, but it's not great. Now you can get very aggressive with this. If you raise this too high, you're going to get something crazy looking, and it's going to deviate from your image too much. I think that's improved. And if you really want to, what you can do is take this and just radically wipe all this out and say, give me, bright green cat eyes. And that's better. Okay? So, now we're going to send this to extras, and we're going to now upscale. I have a bunch of upscalers here. There are some default ones. Foolhardy's pretty good. Ultra Sharp's pretty good. I guess we'll just use this. You'll again have to experiment with which of these you get a good result. And again, some of these are better at some things than others. For example, I probably should use maybe this anime one, because it's a little more geared toward anime. Some of them are a little more realistic, etc. Right? These things have specialties. No one thing is great at everything. One at art style, so you're going to have to experiment. We'll try this anime one, and I want it to be 4 times the size. I think will be okay. I think that's great. Oops, let's see how big this image actually is. Yeah. Now, you can continue to refine and refine and refine as you go, but I think that should be enough to get you started without making this a 2-hour tutorial. That's a lot closer than when we started. Oh, I didn't even realize my cat had 2 tails till right now. I think that's a tail, and I think that's a tail. I just realized that now. Well, it's a 2-tailed cat. We could we could go back and fix that, but I think you get where we're going. So I hope you found this helpful. I think it'll very quickly help you to go from kind of a prototype to a concept and to start refining. So there are a lot more steps, of course, to do a lot more refinement, and you can refine and refine until you're satisfied, and that is the kind of image you're likely to see when someone has something like this that they're posting. Some of these things are even brought into other applications for post-processing and other things. So if you just installed Stable Diffusion and type in give me a serious looking rugged guy with a dark background, and this doesn't show up, this was probably several hours of work. You can propel all of those results by getting a model that's more aligned with your expected result. Maybe getting some of these LoRAs that are a little more aligned with your expected result. Adding an art style that's more aligned with your expected result. And now that should speed up and help you get to where you were going a lot quicker. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. I had fun making it. Keep an eye out for more stuff. Thanks for watching.